Leo Carlsson looks impressive, but the Ducks get swept in the season series by the Seattle Kraken. We'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day, or in this case, by the time this drops, it'll be the weekend because the Ducks played a late game on Friday night. And as I'm recording this late Friday, it'll be early Saturday. So, it's supposed to be a Friday postcast, but it'll wind up being a Saturday since the game went a little bit late. So, just want to put that out there. We will be back probably not on Monday, but we'll have a show on Tuesday and a doubleheader at some point. Actually, no, I take it back. We will have a show on Monday because there will be a game to talk about on Sunday. In fact, the Ducks have a very heavy schedule, so it will be a full week next week. And we'll just go from there. Yeah, I don't even know why I said that, but I'm going to keep this all in because it's the weekend, folks. And it's towards the end of the season. And the Ducks are still losing a plethora of games. The Ducks are kind of lucky that they won that last road game because they came back falling down to earth on this one. But the big takeaway on this one is the ascent of Leo Carlsson, who I've been very high on since probably the start of the season. And I think part of that is because he paired so well with Troy Terry. I love that pairing of Troy Terry and Leo Carlsson. I think that's been not so much underlooked, but maybe underappreciated is the word to look for it. And I think we kind of overlook Leo Carlsson a little bit because he's been injured for most of the season. He's also been overlooked because he was not the number 2 pick that the Ducks were expected to get. Remember, the Ducks were supposed to get Adam Fantilli in that draft, and they didn't. And I think we're discounting Leo Carlsson. We're kind of not talking about some of the brilliant aspects of his game. And one of that is his playmaking ability. He put on a show during the Ducks game. He did score the lone goal late, and this was him going to work. I mean, he had a nice move. He had a forehand move, a backhand move, and just dangled like nobody's business. There is a certain chirp that I am not going to say on this podcast, but I've heard some pretty good chirps. I will just say that dangle is deserving of a very good chirp. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I've seen better dangles. Anyway, it was a dirty dangle, folks. It was one of the best goals I've seen all season. Definitely a highlight reel goal from the Anaheim Ducks. And, that's something that we got to talk about is the creativity of Leo Carlsson. Look, we know that he's a goal scorer. We know that he can pot the puck whenever he wants. But when it was Troy Terry's turn to kind of be that goal scoring person, and it was Leo Carlsson that was making the creative plays. It was Leo Carlsson that was making the slick passes. We've seen that from Leo this season. And it's a testament to how good Troy Terry has been as an influence on Leo Carlsson. But we got to talk about Leo Carlsson himself. Look, he is very talented off the puck. We've seen that maybe not as often, but there are moments where he will get to an area that he has to get to and have the perfect receive, which is how he's gotten so many of his assists, is especially early in the season when Troy Terry was busy, having 2 guys flanking him, and Leo Carlsson would skate to the perfect spot either in the slot or right around the faceoff dot. And that's really good off the puck work. So something that I think kind of goes a little bit underappreciated here. And something else that I've liked as far as Leo is his individual offensive ability. And by that, I mean his ability to keep the puck, to control the puck, and also get into the zone fairly well. Something that I don't think we talk about a whole lot. Defensively, he's starting to become a little better here and there. Dare I say it? Yeah, he's becoming a little more defensively responsible. That's something that you definitely want to see out of like your young core, is someone that is actually a little bit defensively responsible. Now, he does need to work on his face-offs. He is still one of the worst face-off guys on the team. But he's young. He will grow into that. I mean, Ryan Getzlaf didn't start off as the face-off specialist that he is now, or before he retired. Sam Carrick was definitely not the face-off specialist that he is now. Going back to 2016, I would say Sam Carrick was closer to 50% face-offs. Now he's well above that. So that would be like one aspect. Something else that I do like is he's responsible in not taking a lot of bad penalties, which I'm glad for, and not getting caught as flat-footed as other Ducks players. And here's where I'm going to give Leo Carlsson a little bit more praise here. According to Hockey Stat Cards, one of my favorite websites, Leo Carlsson has the second highest game score average among all Ducks players. Now, top of that list is Adam Henrique, but he's no longer a Duck. So second on that list, very close, by the way. So first, currently, yeah, Troy Terry, of course. Troy Terry, his line mate, has been nothing but stellar this season. Terry, as I mentioned, 20 goals, third consecutive year of 20 goals. He's been great, but Leo Carlsson, 10 goals, 16 apples. He's looking pretty solid this season. And the reason that the metrics are so good on Leo Carlsson, according to Hockey Stat Cards, is he doesn't take very many negatives. In fact, on this game between the Kraken and Ducks, Leo Carlsson had the best game score, 1.24, best among everyone on the team. Troy Terry also had a positive score, but Leo Carlsson, on the basis of that goal alone, he has the top score. But he's been pretty consistent all season. There hasn't been a lot of valleys in his games this season. And if you look at his individual scorecard, and I'll just talk about it briefly before heading to the break, Leo Carlsson has an offensive rating that's right around the middle. Defensive rating is slightly above average. Net rating still pretty good. And as far as just overall rating, if there are valleys, they're not much, like they're not worse than like a -2 score, which is fine. We've seen Cam Fowler with scores of, -6, -7, -8, some really, truly awful scores. And then Leo Carlsson has some consistently solid games where they're like around 0.5 or 1. They're still good. And the expected goals against is kind of among like the top 50% in the league. So I think with time, he's going to improve a little bit more defensively. That's something that I'm looking forward to as well. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission and talk about the game. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. Robinhood Gold is good. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Fees apply for the subscription. And now for some legal jargon. Investing involves risk including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA is available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Let's talk a little bit more about this game, and this is where I'm going to talk more on the Seattle side because I am the public address for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, which is an affiliate of the Seattle Kraken, so I'm pretty familiar with the Kraken. I think most of you know that, and what I was surprised with is that we didn't see Logan Morrison and Ryan Winterton in this game. Yeah, it didn't matter. I have been on the Shane Wright train all season long. I have talked to Erica Ayala from Locked On Kraken. I've talked to the guys from Emerald City Hockey. They're a really good Seattle Kraken podcast. Check them out as well. So got to give them my props. But I have texted back and forth with both Erica and RJ all season long, like, hey, like, Shane Wright, hey, look at this. Like, hey, look, another Shane Wright highlight reel goal. Oh, look, he's starting to kill it. Like, he's been getting better all season long. And I wasn't surprised that he had a big breakout game in front of what turned out to be over 100 Firebirds fans. There was a lot of Firebirds fans on this game. They wanted to see Ty Cartier, they wanted to see Joy Decord, they wanted to see Wintz, and they wanted to see, Cale Fleury make his season debut, but they really wanted to see Shane Wright. Shane Wright has been one of the team leaders in goals all season long. And yes, there was all that attention from Shane Wright during the draft because, oh, I didn't get picked first and I'm going to give the dirty look. No, you know what? F that. Shane Wright is going to start to prove a lot of those haters wrong, and it was very evident on this game. The first one was a tip-in from Oliver Bjorkstrand in the first period. The second one, Shane Wright roofed a perfect shot, and he was like right in that mid-slot area, and I cannot believe he was left that alone. Oh my God. So that made it 2-0 Seattle. And then if it wasn't enough, he was on hat-trick watch, and Shane Wright put it towards the net on the power play, and a deflection from Matty Beniers made it 3-0. If it wasn't for that deflection, if it had actually gone off of a Ducks defenseman and gone in, then Shane Wright would have had his hat trick in front of the Firebirds faithful. By the way, don't worry, Firebirds fans. He'll be back in a couple weeks. Shane will be back. But anyway, so that made it 3-0 Kraken. And by the way, that power play, I didn't like that one too much. Oh, there's a reason for that. So the Ducks, as always, commit a lot of penalties because they frickin' do that. But I'm not going to yell this time. That one, so it was a Gustav Lindstrom high sticking, and that particular penalty, the one like right after the goal, I thought that was a good hip check. It was a perfectly, like, we've almost had like a forgotten art. It's like a lost art now. Like, where are the good hip checks nowadays? And that was a solid one. Like, Radko Gudas backed up perfectly into Brandon Tanev. And yeah, Tanev may have did a slight bit of acting there, but the ref spotted it. And Gudas went straight into the box for what I thought was a clean hip check. Where are those now? It's completely a lost art now. And yeah, I thought it was kind of ludicrous that Radko Gudas got a penalty on that one. Even the guys from Emerald City thought it was not a good call because I message them once in a while. They're like, yeah, good hip check. I'm like, yeah, it was. But nonetheless, the Ducks get penalized. Yeah, I know what some Ducks fans want to say. Oh, they're going after the Ducks again. No, you're not getting me with that right now, folks. You're not. So the Ducks gave Seattle 5 power play chances. Of course, Seattle cracked on one of them. But then late in the game, or late in the period rather, we saw that just sick, filthy goal from Leo Carlsson, making it 3-1. That was a dangle and a roof. Love that shot. Third period. Was it just me? Or did the Ducks kind of stop playing for a bit? It sure looked like it, folks. It looked like the Ducks just kind of stalled for a little bit for no good reason. And when Seattle had possession, they were perfectly fine with just passing back and forth, playing keep away, and preventing the Ducks from doing anything. And where was the energy? Where was, like there was nothing there. The Ducks had no energy. There was no urgency to try to get the puck back or to steal the puck from Seattle. and the Kraken were content just holding onto that lead and making sure the Ducks never got possession, which is kind of what happened. Then at the very end, we had a penalty. Towards the very end, it was an empty net. This one, I thought the Ducks got bailed out on this one. Cam Fowler hooked Jared McCann. McCann was wide open, and they called a hooking penalty with an empty net. There was no one in front of Jared McCann. I thought they were going to award a goal, and they didn't. But in the grand scheme of things, who cares? Power play with just over 2 minutes left. 4-1, 3-1, it doesn't really matter. The Ducks still lost anyway, 3-1. It doesn't matter because the Kraken are mathematically out of it now. The Ducks, they've been out since heck was a pup. So it's been a long time. And overall, that just did not matter. So Cam Fowler kind of got caught there. I mean, he tried to catch up, and according to the Ducks broadcast, and I can't believe I actually heard this, he wasn't in the act of shooting. Okay, first off, this isn't basketball. There's no act of shooting. This is not basketball. I know it's March, or it was March Madness. It's the NCAA tournament, and I know that more fans were probably watching Caitlin Clark in Iowa against who did they play? UConn. And I bet more fans watched the Iowa-UConn women's game than they did Ducks hockey. I was one of those. Before the Ducks game started, I did watch the first half, and then I watched that final play, which I'm not going to talk about here. But yeah, it's not basketball. It's not because he was in the act of shooting. It was because Cam Fowler was almost parallel to Jared McCann. And I guess he was, parallel enough that it wasn't a completely breakaway shot. So penalty instead of an awarded goal. Yeah. All right, we're going to head to the second intermission. I'll have my final thoughts on this one on the other side. Now a brief word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. Patience very much underlined. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LEDs, and much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason J.D. Hernandez. I do have a couple of final thoughts on this one, and I've talked about Leo Carlsson. I am going to talk a lot more about Trevor Zegras on a future podcast, but I do just want to mention that Trevor Zegras had kind of a rough game offensively in general. He just was not receiving the puck all that well, and just kind of one of those games. Now, Z did have a couple of good plays here and there, and he skated well. And he did have some good plays. But I saw a little bit on Twitter that, Zegras is getting benched again. No, okay. Zegras is not, he did not get benched. And I actually did ask a couple folks about this, again, Firebirds folks, that were out there like, hey, what's up with that? Apparently Zegras was like kind of on the bench. He was getting looked at by a trainer. And I actually had to like go back and check this out. But Zegras did ice the puck, and then he wasn't on the ice the following faceoff. Normally, if you ice the puck, and this is like hockey 101, but for those of you that, aren't really aware, if you ice the puck, you must stay out onto the ice, and the offending team is not allowed to make a line change. So for example, if you're a Ducks player and you ice the puck, everyone that was on the ice at the time for the Ducks must stay out there for the next shift or the next face-off unless a timeout is called. No, not even that. No, if a timeout's called, they still have to stay out there anyway on an icing. So no matter what, players got to stay out on an icing call, but he wasn't out there. Which indicates to me that he probably got injured probably right around that shift or something happened. And I did ask someone like, hey, like, is he on the bench? Is he okay? And I got a reply like, yeah, he's still there, but there's a trainer with him right now. So he's probably going to go down like fairly quickly. So I never actually saw if Zegras went down before the final buzzer. But, you know, for those of you saying he got benched, look, he didn't get benched. Greg Cronin's not going to pull that on this game, especially not that late. But just to reassure that he's not benched, you know, it looked like he was a little bit banged up. So that's very likely what happened. So we'll see whether he plays on Sunday against St. Louis. And God, I hope they beat the Blues. At this point of the season, the Ducks are not going to be worse than the Sharks or the Blackhawks. They're not going to catch Columbus. So they may as well just win a bunch of games and maybe knock out St. Louis from playoff contention. Just get it over with. They're going to miss anyway, but wouldn't it be poetic if they get mathematically eliminated by the Ducks on Sunday? Could be fun. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. That'll wrap it up for the week. We will be back on Monday to talk about that hopeful win against the Blues, but we'll see. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button. We're also on SiriusXM, so check us out there. You could follow me on Twitter or X at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter or X is at LO_Ducks. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez saying have a great rest of the weekend, folks. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.